All right, very big news coming in. The Mudgal report. From the Mudgal report, some names have been disclosed. The next hearing in the case will be on the 24th of November. The Supreme Court has disclosed names of the main accused in the IPL scam. Meyyappan and Kundra have been named in that report. Boria, this is very big news coming out.
Huge. Kundra and Raj Kundra, the two names being disclosed, means what happens to Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals. You know, Raj Kundra's name had come up earlier, but there was a suggestion from his standpoint that he wasn't guilty, and Rajasthan Royals as a team did not stand the risk of disqualification rather. But what I'm more interested, Vedika, if you ask your court reporter, 24th November is the next hearing. What does it mean for Mr. Srinivasan?
Absolutely.
The AGM is on 20th. Is the status quo still valid, or has he been permitted to contest? Because if the Supreme Court has not said anything about the status of Mr. N. Srinivasan at this point in time, then does that mean that he is ineligible to contest or to take over the BCCI? That is the foremost question that you need to debate. Raj Kundra implicated means this seriously puts in question Rajasthan Royals' fate in the IPL alongside that of Chennai Super Kings. Two teams now in the dock, not one, and this means brand IPL will now seriously face a test of credibility and crisis.
All right, let me just bring our viewers also up to speed. And Boria, these are some details still coming in from the Supreme Court. What we're being told is the court has asked Harish Salve to clarify who are the players and non-players among the names. The names were of Meyyappan, Raj Kundra, Stuart Binney, Awed Shah, Raj Kundra again, and also those are the names really coming out. Well, there is no clarity on whether there is a restriction on the BCCI elections or not. That's what we're waiting to hear from Shivani from the Supreme Court. But Mr. Bhimani, how do you see this really playing out? Because the fate of two of the teams now really hangs in the balance. Is it endgame for them really?
Well, at the endgame, I don't think, as what you mentioned earlier, there was never a doubt about Meyyappan. It was done and dusted. It is something that we knew it would happen. As to the level of punishment, the quantum of punishment, we don't know. We don't know about Raj Kundra, except that I believe he had already admitted that he was betting.
No, but he retreated.
He retracted it, did he? Anyway, the point was, okay, that was retracted, but it has obviously been now renewed, and he's guilty. But if he is mentioned and if he is guilty, the next stage is, where do we go from here? The two IPL teams, the CSK and the Rajasthan Royals, what do they face? Do they face strictures from the court, or do they face strictures from the governing body, which is going to follow the court? But
if I can borrow there from Kishore Da,
yes.
He makes a fantastic point that if the Supreme Court has named Raj Kundra and Meyyappan and allows the BCCI to sit in judgment, who sits in judgment? Mr. Srinivasan? Will he sit in judgment of his own team and own son-in-law? Or will the BCCI not allow him to be in that chair? Or will the court not allow him to be in that chair? Because that is the crucial question here, Vedika. If Meyyappan has been named as guilty and the BCCI is asked by the Supreme Court to prosecute, who will sit in judgment? Will Mr. Srinivasan be allowed to sit in judgment of his own team and own son-in-law? That is the central question. As far as Raj Kundra is concerned, Rajasthan Royals will be in serious crisis now that he is being named as team owner, just like Meyyappan. If the team owner is responsible for betting, he has clearly brought the game of cricket into disrepute. Spirit, moral culpability, propriety are not words that are of any significance in the echelons of the board. But now that the Supreme Court has indicted these people, will you suspend them? Will you ban them? Because if you don't, and you just levy a monetary fine, the question will be raised, why did you ban Srishant, Ankit Chavan and Ajit Chandila? They also did the same thing. Why did you not let them go scot-free with a monetary fine? Now the Pandora's box has been opened, Vedika. Now the question is, how does Harish Salve interpret this? What role will the petitioner's lawyer play? What will the Supreme Court judges say? But for me, the central question, and I keep harping on it, if the next hearing is on 24th November, has the court pronounced anything on Mr. Srinivasan. What does it mean, Mr. Yeah, go on.
Boria, there is some other news also that's coming in, and we're going to wait for Shivani to even come onto the phone line. We're expecting her any moment now. But what we're being told is there is no restriction on the BCCI elections. It's the decision of the BCCI on conducting elections. The BCCI will not hold elections till the decision comes from the Supreme Court. What do you make of that?
Come again, I didn't get that. I mean, you said there is no restriction on the BCCI to hold elections.
Yes, but then again, they're going on to say that the BCCI will not be holding the elections till the decision comes in from the Supreme Court.
That's contradictory or paradoxical. You know, obviously this does mean that Mr. Srinivasan's fate hangs in the balance.
Yes.
So clearly, at this point in time, he has not been allowed to contest or take over. And that is why maybe they are giving him a bit of a lifeline there, saying the BCCI can withhold elections. But your first statement was contradictory to the second, that the BCCI can.
So we're going to wait for Shivani to join us live on that, Boria. But as of now, just a quick recap of what we've come to know. Well, there are names that have been disclosed from that Mudgal committee report and that hearing today, which has been a huge development. We've heard the names of Raj Kundra as well as Gurunath Meyyappan. We were expecting Gurunath Meyyappan's name. Just take us through, Boria, what this really means for N. Srinivasan's son-in-law now.
He's gone. He's done and dusted. As team principal, he was betting, and that is well and truly proved as part of the Mudgal report. I mean, it was done in February. Only person who said something to the contrary was Niloy Datta as the third member, who said his voice sample needs to be corroborated by the Mumbai police. That was in March. So Gurunath Meyyappan, who's also being prosecuted for criminal trial by the Mumbai police, is in the dock. Question is, what does that mean for Team CSK? What does that mean for India Cements? What does that mean for conflict of interest? What does that mean for Narayanaswamy Srinivasan? Those are the far more important questions. Gurunath Meyyappan is dispensable, Vedika, as far as the BCCI is concerned. He's a small pawn in a far bigger game. The far bigger fish here are CSK, India Cements, Narayanaswamy Srinivasan. What will the BCCI do with these people? I was very intrigued when you said the board can conduct elections, the board can withhold elections. Because if the board conducts elections, then Mr. Srinivasan is ineligible. If the board does not conduct elections, then clearly Mr. Srinivasan has a bit of a lifeline. So we need to know more coming out of that Supreme Court hearing. You mentioned some other names as well. Can you give us those names? Is it possible for our court reporter to give us those names? You mentioned a couple of players. Has the Supreme Court disclosed names of a couple of players as well? I'm very intrigued to know that.
Well, the other names I have as of now, Boria, with me is the name of Aved Shah and Stuart Binney. Those are the other two names that I do have, though the role of the players has not been disclosed by the Supreme Court.
Correct, and we have to be extremely sensitive and cautious here on headlines today. That by virtue of...
All right, Boria, I'm going to come back to you in a second because we do have Shivani with us. She's going to clarify all the points that we've been talking about. Shivani, just bring us up to speed with what's happened inside the Apex Court today.
Well, huge news coming out from the Supreme Court special bench hearing right now, Vedika. First of all, several names taken. The judges asked the lawyers to identify who are the players and who are the non-players. In the non-players, Srinivasan's name has been taken, Meyyappan's name has been taken, Raj Kundra, and a certain Raman's name has been taken. We don't know exactly who Raman is. This could be Sundar Raman, of course. And these are the four non-players. We don't know in what context their names have been taken. But the big news coming is that two players have been named. One of them, Indian player who recently got into the Indian team, Stuart Binney, and the other English player, Aved Shah. Again, we don't know in what context these names were taken, but some names have been taken in court, and the court asked the judges, the lawyers to identify who are the players and who are the non-players. So we have 4 non-players and 2 players who have been named. Now, after that, the judges have decided that the names of players are going to be coded, as we had reported earlier as well, and the copy of the report is now going to be handed to the lawyers and the petitioners. We're waiting to hear from the petitioner very shortly. The Supreme Court has deferred the hearing till 24th of this month. The other major point coming is that while the Supreme Court said that we are not here to decide when BCCI should hold its elections or whether they should postpone them, whether they should hold them, the BCCI very interestingly has come out and said that they will not hold their elections till the time the matter in the IPL Spot Fixing hearing is resolved. So that is massive news.
Right, and that's exactly what Boria was talking about. Boria, there you have it. Clarity coming in on the BCCI stand.
Yeah.
you know, this is fascinating. So the BCCI coming out in Supreme Court and saying they'll wait. Can the BCCI do that? Is the legal counsel eligible to do that on behalf of the board members? Has it been ratified by a BCCI working committee? Has it been ratified by a BCCI general body? Because if I know, and Kishore Da can, you know, he's been covering cricket as well. When was the last general body held? When was the last working committee held that the BCCI can come out and say, we will not hold our elections? I mean, is it arbitrary? Who takes these calls on behalf of the BCCI? Is this being, you know, is Indian cricket being reduced to a bit of a joke here? We don't know, but I find it extremely interesting that the BCCI council can go and say in court, without consulting the board's working committee, without consulting the board's general body, that the BCCI will not hold elections. This is fascinating as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Bhimani, what do you have to say to that?
Well, I just want to add one line to it.
Yes.
What translated, what it means is that the BCCI council is saying that unless Srinivasan becomes president, we don't want to have the election.
Right.
So we will wait for the clearance from the court. I mean, this, and to take this decision unilaterally means that the council has been briefed beforehand that if there is any kind of problem, any kind of delay, any kind of postponement, please don't accept that we are going to hold the elections on the 20th. In other words, elections can only be held if Srinivasan is going to win it. I mean, this is the way it's translated.
Well, that's the interpretation we have now really reached. But Shivali, are you still with us from the Supreme Court? If you are, just take us through what the Supreme Court had to say about these names that have been disclosed, because the role really has not been disclosed of these players. The role that they've played in the betting scam.
No, that hasn't been disclosed, and that there's no comment that was made on in what context these names were taken. But if these are the names in the report, you know, obviously two of them are suspects that we anticipated their names to be. One is Gurunath Meyyappan and the other is Raj Kundra, whose role in betting is more or less proved, and the interim report also suggested that. The other that we were expecting to hear was, of course, Srinivasan. Remember, Headlines Today was the channel that told its viewers that Sundar Raman's name could be under the scanner. In the transcripts that we presented to our viewers way back in March, there are transcripts which mention Sundar's name, even though there is nothing that where he's directly talking to an alleged bookie or so on and so forth, but his name was there in talks that Vindudara Singh and Gurunath Meyyappan had. So Sundar Raman, we had said, could be under the scanner as well. So it seems that Sundar Raman is the Raman that the name has been taken in court. He's the CEO of the IPL. His role could well under be scanner, and he could be in trouble if the name has been taken. Once again, I want to clarify, no comment has been made on in what context these names were chosen and picked out of the report and talked about. But the surprising part has been the two players that have been named, Stuart Binney and Ovesh Shah. Just what context we do not know, and we don't want to speculate on that. But the fact that the court asked the lawyers to identify who are the players and who are the non-players out of these names that have come out indicates that they were taking this very, very seriously. And then, of course, the court went on to say that we do not want to give the names out in the copies that go on to the lawyers and the petitioners. So they are keeping a close lid on the identity of players. But few names, these 6 names, we did get to hear in the court today, Vedika.
Mr. Bhimani, we're talking about the big fish here.
We're talking about what? Sorry?
The big fish.
The big fish.
Big fish. Well, yeah. Now, the fact that Srinivasan has been named, the two, as Boria mentioned earlier, Raj Kundra and Meyyappan were really done and dusted. Raj Kundra had retracted his statement. It obviously, he was betting. The amounts have been mentioned, that he had lost ₹1 crore, that, you know, all this thing was going on. Then he retracted it, whatever it is. As far as Ovesh Shah and Stuart Binney is concerned, it will be only fair if we don't talk about them. Because in what context they were mentioned, where it is going, it's only fair that their name should not be sullied yet. Now, these two, the fact that Raman is mentioned, and I remember this program on Headlines Today when it was done, that Sundar Raman's name has been mentioned. Once again, we don't know in what context. But these people are involved. They are the players. Whether they are good players or bad players is another story. But I really do believe that the take-home value of today's entire proceedings has been that the BCCI stands as one behind Srinivasan.
Yes.
Srinivasan stands, they stand. Otherwise, the 20th, what they are trying to say is no Srinivasan, no board meet, no AGM. That can only happen after the 24th.
But Kishore Da, where I find that interesting is, after this hearing, will the board unity stand? Because both of us have followed BCCI for a long time, and with Sharad Pawar's name now doing the rounds, Whether this board unity on Srinivasan's behalf or again in favor of Srinivasan stand the test of time till the 20th Vedika, wait and see, because this whole stand, can the lawyers say that? Question number 1. Who is the lawyer representing BCCI or Srinivasan? Question number 2. Question number 3, has a working committee ratified or approved it? Has a general body ratified or approved it? Because if you remember, it was a BCCI working committee that decided to hold the AGM on 20th of November.
Yes.
Without a working committee approving, a deferral, somebody goes to court and says the BCCI will defer its AGM till, the time happens and Srinivasan's name is cleared. It doesn't sound plausible to me. So I do think there will be a lot of drama still waiting to happen. But what happens to Raj Kundra, Gurunath Meyyappan, CSK, Sundar Raman? Because the court said very clearly in the last hearing, is there a cover-up? If there is a cover-up, who are the people responsible for that cover-up? Because if there has been a cover-up and these people are responsible for that cover-up, obviously there will be serious repercussions. But as we say, we will not speculate on headlines today, but it's pertinent to say that some television channels and some news channels for that matter kept going saying everything is hunky-dory, everybody has been given a clean chit. How did they get that piece of information when they said such kind of things on air? I really have my doubts.
All right, I'm going to come back to the two of you in a moment from now. I also have Kunal Pradhan joining me in the Noida studio here, consulting, I beg your pardon, Deputy Editor of India Today. Kunal, what do you make of the big developments that have just taken place in the last 20 minutes that we've been discussing? Big names coming out.
There are 2-3 things that we must first focus on. One is, why is it that everybody is so hassled about what is happening right now? Because this is, after a long time, after about 13 years, an outside agency has probing the BCCI.
Yeah.
Anything that the BCCI has done about match fixing so far has been done internally by their own people, reporting to them with allegations that they are themselves complicit in, if not in match fixing itself, in knowing what's going on and letting it happen, because there's a larger game and there's a larger stake involved, and why sully the game by doing that?
Yeah.
So the key is that everybody's so shaken up because of this.
Yes.
Now we don't know the details of the report, but the first report that the Mudgal committee had put out, after which they decided to probe more, it was pretty clear that Gurunath Meyyappan didn't come across very nicely in that report. Now the crucial link then is that, is Gurunath Meyyappan a Chennai Super Kings representative, or is he acting in his own capacity and just happens to be the son-in-law of the owner of Chennai Super Kings and the board
Well, clearly that's what the BCCI will want to prove.
No, so that's what they're trying to prove, but I'm just saying that if once again it is very clearly established that Gurunath Meyyappan was acting on behalf of Chennai Super Kings on several occasions, that there are several emails in which he's been named, there are several occasions where he's seen roaming around with a pass which says either owner or there's some team, there's some term that they use in the later years. If that is proved, it's going to be very difficult for the Chennai Super Kings, given the IPL's own, in my opinion, slightly dodgy rules about all this, because this conflict should not have arisen in the first place. That a board president is an owner of a team, but even given the very dodgy rules, it's going to be very difficult for Chennai Super Kings to survive. Now, if Chennai Super Kings cannot survive, and if all this is correct, where does it leave Srinivasan? Can he survive in the board of control for cricket in India? See, so just what is so interesting is that one outside probe into the BCCI, a very limited probe done by 3-4 people, initially not even with any police or people involved, just going on testimonies of people, has shaken up Indian cricket in such a way that now heads could roll from the top to the bottom.
And exactly that's what we're trying to say, because we're talking about the big fish and we just discussed that with Mr. Bhimani as well. Is Shivani still with me? Shivani, could you just bring us up to speed with the latest that has happened in court?
Well, what we're hearing from the Supreme Court is that the next hearing is on 24th. Interestingly, the Supreme Court has said that while the non-players can be named, the players shall not be named. So they want to protect the identity of the players because they do not want anything to sully their names before we know what is their culpability and what is their role in the entire saga. The petitioner in the case, Aditya Verma, has joined us. He's just
Alright, Shivani, there is a reaction coming in from the council. Let's just cut across. I'll be back in a moment.
Verma from Bihar Cricket Association. Cricket Association of Bihar. Aditya Verma. नहीं, खिलाड़ियों के नाम पब्लिक नहीं करने हैं, खिलाड़ियों के नाम नहीं चलाने हैं। नहीं, इनके नाम
मीडिया को मना थोड़े किया गया है।
आदित्य जी, आज कोर्ट ने डिसाइड किया कि नाम सार्वजनिक करने हैं या नहीं, क्या कहा कोर्ट ने, विस्तार से बताएं।
देखिए, आज माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बीसीसीआई ने सबसे पहले एजीएम पोस्टपोन करने के लिए निवेदन किया और सुप्रीम कोर्ट मुदगल कमीशन के जो 13 नाम थे उसमें से एक नाम जो श्रीनिवासन का पहले ही कोर्ट ने बता दिया था और आज 7 नाम बताया गया, 3 प्लेयर्स का और 3 अधिकारी लोगों का और 5 बड़े खिलाड़ियों लोग का नाम अभी होल्ड पे रखा गया है। वो नाम है सुंदर रमन, सीओ आईपीएल और बीसीसीआई के ऑफिशियल हैं, गुरुनाथ मैयप्पन और राज कुंद्रा। और 3 नाम मैं नहीं बताऊंगा क्योंकि अभी कोर्ट ने प्लेयर्स लोग का नाम बताने से मना किया है। लेकिन सबसे दुखद स्थिति क्या है, मैं बीसीसीआई के तमाम एसोसिएशन को इस सुप्रीम कोर्ट के मैदान से ये आग्रह करता हूं कि अब जगिए। आज क्या हास्यास्पद स्थिति है बीसीसीआई के सुप्रीम कोर्ट के अंदर। बीसीसीआई क्यों एजीएम पोस्टपोन करने के लिए, जब इतना बड़ा चीज सामने आ चुका है कि श्रीनिवासन का भी नाम इस रिपोर्ट में है और उनके चेन्नई सुपर किंग के मैयप्पन, सुंदर रमन, जो सारे उनके ग्रुप थे, जो 2 लड़के भी थे वो भी सीएसके के तरफ से, जो कोर्ट ने बोला है लेकिन अभी मैं बताऊंगा नहीं, सभी लोग को पता है कि उसको प्लेयर्स का नाम अभी ओपन करना नहीं है। तो बीसीसीआई और एजीएम पोस्टपोन करने के लिए क्यों अपील कर रही है? क्या आज के डेट में बीसीसीआई एक आदमी के हाथ का बन के रह गया है? ये गलत बात है, ये नहीं होना चाहिए। मैं सारे स्टेट एसोसिएशन से आग्रह करता हूं कि इस तरह की चीज नहीं होनी चाहिए।
आदित्य नाम बताएं उन दोनों क्रिकेटर का, अगर आप प्रोफाइल बता पाएं वो किस टीम से खेलते थे? उनके नामों का जिक्र ना करें, उनका प्रोफाइल।
सीएसके, सीएसके से भी खेले थे, बाद में एक लड़का दूसरे टीम से भी खेला था और एक विदेशी खिलाड़ी भी उसमें था जो कोर्ट ने बताया। लेकिन 5 बड़े खिलाड़ियों की नाम है जिसे होल्ड पे रखा गया है और ये रिपोर्ट की कॉपी मुझे मिलेगी। और इस बीच में मैं बता दूं कि हमारे अधिवक्ता श्री हरीश साल्वे साहब ने कोर्ट में एक एप्लीकेशन लगाने के लिए रिक्वेस्ट किया जिसे कोर्ट ने मान लिया। उस एप्लीकेशन में ये 4 नाम मैयप्पन, सुंदर रमन, श्रीनिवासन, इन लोगों को हम इम्प्लीट करेंगे और ये रजिस्ट्रार इस नाम को डायरेक्ट उनको नोटिस जाएगा और अगले डेट 24 तारीख को उनको कोर्ट में हाजिर रहना है।
जी, क्या इसका मतलब ये माना जाए कि केवल श्रीनिवासन को बीसीसीआई का अध्यक्ष पद के चुनाव लड़ाने के लिए ही ये एजीएम की मीटिंग टालने की बात आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट में बीसीसीआई ने की है? एकदम सही बात आप बोल रहे हैं। बीसीसीआई आज के डेट में बीसीसीआई श्रीनिवासन इज बीसीसीआई बन के रह गया है। अब कभी सारे स्टेट एसोसिएशन, और सबसे दुखद बात यह है कि रोटेशनल सिस्टम में इस बार ईस्ट जोन का चांस था, वो लोग भी सारे के सारे कारपेट बिछा के रखे हुए हैं श्रीनिवासन के लिए, जिसके खिलाफ में देश का सर्वोच्च न्यायालय ने कमीशन बनाया, जांच कराया और आज कमीशन के लास्ट फाइंडिंग में भी उनका नाम आया है। और इससे बड़ा दुखद घटना हिंदुस्तान के क्रिकेट के लिए कुछ नहीं हो सकती है। और अब समय आ गया है कि श्रीनिवासन जैसे लोगों को बीसीसीआई से और टीएनसीए से हमेशा के लिए अलग किया जाए। थैंक यू।
सुनो, ये ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड नाम एस बद्री है, 3 नाम।
एस बद्री, ओबेद शाह, स्टुअर्ट विनी।
Mr. Bhimani, very strong words really coming out from there. BCCI Srinivasan and Srinivasan is BCCI.
Well, it was put in very succinctly by Mr. Aditya Verma, but the fact remains that this has been happening.